Penguins practiced again in Sweden on Thursday in preparation for Friday's game against the Nashville Predators, and Pat and I are going to preview Friday's game right after this.
You're Locked On Penguins, your daily podcast on the Pittsburgh Penguins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am one of your hosts, Hunter Hodes. You can follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes, joined by my co-host, Patrick Dape. You can follow him on all social media platforms at Synonym for Wet. You can also follow the show's Twitter at LO_Penguins, and you can follow the show's Instagram at LockedOn_Penguins. Of course, thank you all so much for making this your first listen/watch of the day. We are free and available on all platforms. Pat, our long national nightmare is just about over as the Penguins will be back in action on Friday. Remember, people, different start time, 2 o'clock Eastern time. So if you're at work, put it on another screen, try to sneak it on a small TV, something like that. But 2 o'clock start time on Friday. And then remember, people, Sunday, early morning hockey, 9 a.m. right before the Pittsburgh Steelers will try to bounce back. But really excited for this. And the Penguins, let's just get into some practice notes to start today's episode, Pat. We're going to dive into the Predators in a little bit, because they have been horrendous this year. This looked like a team that quit against the Rangers earlier this week in Madison Square Garden. They have lost 8 of their last 9 games. More on them in a second. As for the practice lines today, you continue to see Ben Kindle with Sidney Crosby and Brian Rust on the top line, Tommy Novak, Evgeni Malkin, and Anthony Mantha, Connor Dewar with Blake Lizotte and Joona Koppanen, and then Ville Koivunen with Kevin Hayes / Philip Tomasino / Danton Heinen. So potentially Danton Heinen could be coming out of the lineup. We'll have to see what happens. And then defensively, Parker Wotherspoon with Erik Karlsson, Ryan Shea, Chris Letang, Connor Clifton with Harrison Brunick, and then Matt Dumba and Ryan Graves. So not sure if Brunick is getting back in. Obviously, we had a big conversation about him with Kelsey on the Wednesday edition where, 2 more scratches, they can do that loophole where you send him down to the AHL on a conditioning assignment. All they'd have to do is scratch him for both games in Sweden. But hey, maybe they're planning on playing him in one of these games and starting his ELC. We'll have to see. He was on the third defensive pair today. Got to see if that sticks. Don't know the goalie rotation yet. I'm sure Dan Muse is going to announce that early morning just because of the time zone difference on Friday, Pat. So I think when we all wake up tomorrow, we'll probably know who is going to be starting in net for this game. But practice lines, nothing really out of the ordinary at all. But I'm excited for them to be back in action. They've had a nice little break here. They've been able to hopefully get their legs back, be fully recharged. I'm expecting hopefully some good things out of this first game at least.
That's the biggest thing. I understand that they had to do international travel and head over to Sweden, but they have not played a game since Sunday. So they should be ready to go. They should be adapted to the new surrounding by this point. They should be ready and raring to go. They're rested. They're having some fun, as we have seen through a lot of both the Penguins and the NHL's social media channels. They are really going all out for this thing. But as you said, plenty of time off for the Penguins to recharge after what we've talked about was a really condensed schedule the last couple of weeks. So the Penguins played a ton of hockey and then got a nice little respite from that to head over to Sweden. I will say, I know we dove deep on Brunick yesterday, and I'm still with you guys in the camp of I do think it's best for him at this point to sit out the next 2 games and go to the AHL. But I do feel bad on a personal level for him. You travel with the team over to Sweden. You take place in all the fun and games around it. You're in practice and skating with the team only to not get into a game. So I do feel bad for him on that regard. I will say I winced a little bit when I saw that Graves-Dumba pairing during the practice notes out of today. But I'll say this. I have liked the little sample size that we have seen from Ryan Graves since he returned. We'll see if he can keep that up with a partner like Matt Dumba. But as I have said on the show, with Graves coming up and everything that he did, I'm wiping the slate mostly clean. New coaching staff. He had his AHL assignment. He has been passable to good since coming back up to the NHL. So we'll see. But at the end of the day, the biggest thing that stood out to me is I am really, really intrigued by that third line of Hayes, Koivunen, and Tomasino, because I understand people's hesitancy when it comes to Hayes. The foot speed, never been there, still definitely not there. But for the most part, when Kevin Hayes has been with the Penguins, he has shown he can more than compensate for his lack of foot speed. He is a great puck possessor. He has really good vision. And the way Ville Koivunen has been playing, he has quite literally done everything but score. But I think you put a guy who can possess the puck and get possession of the puck in Kevin Hayes with a player like Tomasino who needs to jumpstart his game, combined with the way Koivunen has been playing, they might be able to figure something out together as a trio. And I'm really intrigued to see how that line looks when they go up against the Predators tomorrow afternoon.
You said it about Kevin Hayes. We all know the foot speed's not there. He has really never been that good of a skater, but he does protect the puck well. He has good vision, strong playmaking ability. And I thought last year he was totally fine as a depth player. And he's going to play again in at least some games this year. I think when the team is fully healthy, there's still probably not a spot for him in the lineup. If he does play, I think it would maybe be one game in, a couple game out, and then maybe he's rotating just because I think they're going to want to at least gauge what his value is since his contract is up at the end of the year. And maybe they could still look to move him around the trade deadline, even if this team is still kind of in the playoff picture, which again, right now they're still top 3 in the Metropolitan Division. As for Tomasino, again, I think we might be getting to the end of the runway here with him, Pat. It's really put up or shut up time for Tomasino. He has not been good in the games that he has played this year, outside, I think, of the first game against the Rangers where he had a couple of decent chances, but since then, not really much. And I think as the team is going to start getting healthier in the next couple of weeks, the chances for him to really prove himself are going to keep getting slimmer. So this is a really big opportunity for him. It just hasn't been there. His game, that is, just hasn't been there for a lot of this season. And then for the Koivunen, yeah, I mean, the poor guy is just snake bitten right now. He's getting some really good chances in these games. I think he's skating better. I think his vision has been there on the ice, and the process for the most part has also been there. You know, you look at his on ice expected goals, 61% so far this season per money puck. It's really good, man. Again, the process is really there. It's just not translating to actual results. Again, still early in his NHL career. Once he gets one, I think the goals are going to start coming a little bit in waves. But I agree with you. I'm curious to see how that line is. We touched on the first line yesterday. I don't really have much to add on that. I continue to want to see Novak with Malkin. I wrote about that again during the offseason, how I think those two could have good chemistry together. And you saw a little bit of that, on display on Sunday against the Kings. So let's see more of it on this Friday against Nashville. And just to end this segment on a fun note, Pat, we saw a little reunion in Sweden on Thursday. Carl Hagelin came to watch the Penguins practice, Stanley Cup champion Carl Hagelin, that is, and got to reunite with Nick Bonino. So 2/3 of the Hagelin, Bonino, Kessel line was reunited. And I'm sorry, I smiled the whole time while seeing it. It's great seeing Carl Hagelin doing well, man.
It is, because as we know, his career did not end very well with the injuries and everything. And the worst part of that was it looked like Carl Hagelin still had something left in the tank. It didn't look like he was just done. So happy to see him doing really well. And with that, he also did say that he is not doing the ceremonial face-off tomorrow. So there's a lot of speculation that another Swede and another former Penguin and Predator might be the guy doing the first puck drop, and that is two-time Stanley Cup champion with the Pittsburgh Penguins, Mr. Irrelevant himself, Patrick Hornqvist. That would be really fun to see, a really awesome kind of full circle moment for Hornqvist, who was drafted by the Predators, then traded to the Penguins, became an absolutely integral part of the Penguins' 2 championships in 16 and 17, and just genuinely one of the most fun and entertaining Penguins we've seen in this era. Just the way the man had no off switch. I think it was Crosby who said, I'm pretty sure he walks into the rink screaming. So that was the kind of energy Patrick Hornqvist brought to the game. One last thing that I really wanted to also touch on, and this is more about the complete picture of everything that's happening this weekend with the global series. I know it was on the NHL's TikTok. I'm sure they've put it out on other platforms on social as well. They did a video where they asked both people on the Penguins and the Predators to describe Sidney Crosby in one word. And while everybody understood the assignment, there was one person who didn't, and that was Steven Stamkos, one of the best goal scorers of the modern era and a surefire Hall of Famer. The man went on like a 90-second long tirade about how great Crosby is, and it just makes me want to re-emphasize on this show. I understand that we are in the day-to-day business when it comes to evaluating the Pittsburgh Penguins. I understand we're going to critique them when they play poorly. We're going to praise them when they play well. We're going to talk about everything that they need to do to get back to the Stanley Cup playoffs and get back to contention and everything in between. But one more time for everybody in the back. Appreciate this while you still can. Because if you go find that video, you can just see in both his face, in the way he talks about Sidney Crosby, in the way a lot of these players talk about Sidney Crosby when they're asked this question, they understand that they are in the presence of greatness. And I will continue to say it. Unfortunately, the end is a lot closer than the beginning. So even when you're frustrated with this team, make sure to take a moment to remember how great it is that Sidney Crosby is the Penguins captain.
100%. Getting old sucks, man. I mean, I'm about to turn 28 in 2 days. So I'm going to be 30 in 2 years, brother. Again, it's nasty. I'm about to be. Some people are going to keep calling me an unk, I think, soon. You already
I
are.
just turned 35. I don't want to hear it from you.
You already are an unk, dude. But I'm going to be an unk pretty soon. So, but yeah, getting old stinks. But we've all been blessed, spoiled, whatever word you want to call it, to watch Sid and Gino and Chris and everyone do their thing for the last 20 plus years. And I'm going to keep feeling that way until those three especially retire. And I still don't want it to happen anytime soon. But as you said, I know the end is getting close. It stinks. Again, getting old is really annoying. And as for Hornquist, I would love if that happened. He was the player who just, again, great on and off the ice. Whenever the Penguins needed a big goal or needed a spark, he was right there to provide it. In the locker room, when some of the big guns didn't want to talk to the media, he was always like, hey, come over here. I'll deliver a big quote. He turned into such a leader really quickly on this team. And I'll always have the utmost respect for him. Just a great Penguin through and through. And that would be awesome if he got to do that. So just wanted to speak on Hornquist a little bit there, but that'll do it for this first segment of today's episode. Coming up in the second segment, we are going to discuss how bad this Nashville team has been to start the year and why, again, it would behoove the Penguins to sweep this little back-to-back against them, even though they're playing the Predators in a different country. That's coming up right after this. But before we get to that, we have to tell you all about our first sponsor, and that is Drip Drop. When I'm hydrated, everything just works better. My focus, energy, mood, even my skin. That's why I've been using Drip Drop. It's doctor-developed hydration that keeps me running at full power no matter what my day looks like. Drip Drop isn't your average sports drink. It delivers 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of leading brands using a science-backed formula trusted by medical professionals, firefighters, and over 90% of top college and pro teams. I like using Drip Drop as part of my daily routine. I'll mix a packet in the morning before the gym or during that midday slump when I really just want to get going again. Hydration has become non-negotiable for me. Drip Drop helps me feel sharper, calmer, and honestly, just a lot better overall. Right now, Drip Drop is offering podcast listeners 20% off your first order. Just go to dripdrop.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL. That's dripdrop.com, promo code LOCKEDONNHL for 20% off. Stock up now before the heat hits hard and keep your body and mind performing at their best with Drip Drop. All right, we're back here on this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Hunter Hodes, joined by my co-host, Patrick Amp. And Pat, the vibes in Nashville are pretty rancid right now. They've lost 5 in a row. 8 of their last 9 games. I alluded to it at the start of the show. It felt like they quit on Andrew Brunette on Monday in New York, that 6-3 loss against the Rangers. UC Saros is doing everything in his power to try and will this team to wins, but no one else is just bothering to carry the load at all. You see Ryan O'Reilly come out with a pretty damning quote recently saying, I only had one good season in my career. He went back on it, of course, but the vibes are just not good. They can't score. They're one of the worst offensive teams in the league. Defensively, again, they're still giving up a lot of goals, a lot of really good chances in their own zone. This is a team that is ripe for the taking for the Penguins. Penguins, they've lost 4 of 5. They have an opportunity to really get back on a high note here as the schedule is easing up a bit. Again, you play the Predators twice. You play Seattle coming up. Buffalo is not very good. Minnesota is still very This year, the Penguins have already beaten them. So they got to get back to banking points, and it's got to start tomorrow against the Predators team that really can't do anything right this season.
It's a really bad time in Nashville for the Predators. And the thing that is most confusing about it is you look at this roster and it doesn't jump off the page at you. It's a pretty good roster. You look at the Western Conference, and I think if you were to not actually play the games and play them on paper, you would solidly put Nashville in the playoffs. You look at their forward core, their top 6 is pretty damn good. Philip Forsberg, Ryan O'Reilly, Luke Evangelista, Stamkos, Eric Halla, Jonathan Marchessault. On paper, that's top 6 I'd put up against just about anyone when you look at how good those players are. And then you add that on top of having UC Saros, who, what do you know? Nashville just continues to be a goaltending factory with everybody that comes out of their program. And then you look at their injuries, and yeah, they're without Roman Josi, which is definitely a tough blow. You lose your captain, didn't even make the trip to Sweden, which is tough for them. But still, they're not missing anybody big. They've got a talented roster. It's genuinely confusing as to why they're this bad.
Roman Josi is pretty big, though. I did want to say that.
Yeah, I'm not discounting that I'm not saying like, oh, who cares about Roman Josi? It's tough because then you look at their defense and that's a little bit suspect without him. But still, at the end of the day, this is a really good roster. And I don't understand what is holding them back so dearly from whatever is ailing them. I think you kind of nailed it. It feels like Brunette might be the wrong coach for this team.
Yeah.
They're wildly inconsistent. They can't string together a 60-minute effort. And I was doing a lot of reading from the Hockey News Nashville Bureau, I guess is the best way to say it. And the same word continued to come up, and it was inconsistency. They either don't start games on time or they just kind of call it a game halfway through. It's a team that feels like if they put together a 60-minute effort, they will be difficult to beat. They just have not been able to do that for the better part of the last 2 seasons. So if you're the Penguins, you cannot take this team lightly. Yes, they are struggling. Yes, they don't seem like they're going to figure it out anytime soon. But if you don't go out and play the way you have been playing for the past couple of weeks and think, we're on a nice little Swedish vacation, we're playing a team that's not very good, you're going to pay for that. So for the Penguins, has to be the exact opposite of everything I was just saying about the Predators. Full 60 minutes, stay to your system. And when you get up, if and when you get up on this Predators team, do not let them back up.
Right. And that's been a little bit of a problem for the Penguins this year where they'll take a good lead, just go back to the Washington game, Pat. They'll take some time off. Oh, boom, the game is tied. You go back to the Toronto game. You play 40 perfect minutes, and then you play a period off, and then you don't even get a point out of that game. You lose in regulation. So that has been a little bit of a problem. It can't happen even though the Predators are bad. They still have some pretty good high-end talent. Philip Forsberg is still a great goal scorer. 7 goals, 14 points in 18 games that we've discussed. O'Reilly, he's still off to a good start. Matthew Wood actually has 6 goals and 10 points in only 11 games this season. He's been fairly good in a third-line role for them. Former Penguin Michael Bunting is in a third-line role for them. You got Jonathan Marchessault still there. Steven Stamkos is obviously still there, and I know he's a bit older now, but we all know how deadly he is as a goal scorer. I don't care how old he is. He will snipe the puck from wherever on the ice. So I know this team is bad. You don't want to fall into a trap game situation, if you will.
Well, and
Predator special teams, you got 20-second power play. So the Penguins PK, that should be a good matchup for them. Predators PK, they're 13th in the league, but every PK just really can't do anything against the Penguins power play right now. So I'll continue to say that every team that we preview, I'll always say that the Penguins have an advantage power play wise, just because they have the best power play in hockey. So both those units favor the Penguins. As for the goaltending, hey, UC Saros can get hot whenever, man. I will continue to say that he is one of the best goaltenders in the league. He's played 14 games this season, has an .892 save percentage, 3.11 goals against average. I know his save percentage is below 900, but he is trying everything in his power to try and will them to victories. No one else is just wanting to do it. So, hey, he's great. He gets hot. Good luck scoring on it, because I think he's one of the 5 to 7 best goalies. So you got to get him off his game.
The fact that he has an .892 save percentage is miraculous with the way this team is playing. The funniest thing about this Predators team is they have the 30th worst goals against per game average, but that doesn't tell the whole story of this team. It's the fact that the team in front of UC Saros is just completely dropping the ball. It's not on him. He is a man without a team right now. And that gets into my other point about what you have to do against this Predators team. It's really got nothing to do with X's and O's or systems or anything like that. It's all mental. You need to jump on this team right away, because this is very clearly a fragile team. Oh, yeah. It is very clearly a team that is in an, as you said, 5-game losing streak right now. You pop an early one, or you pop a couple early goals, you know this Nashville team, their mentality is going to go right to, here we go again. Yep. Here we go again. And you have to take advantage of that. If you let them hang around, again, we went through the roster, we went through everything about this Preds team. You let them hang around, they're going to start believing in themselves. They're going to start feeling themselves and thinking, all right, we can pull ourselves out of this. We can figure this out. We can get this done. If you give them that window, they're going to take it. So if you're Dan Muse and the coaching staff, your goal on Friday afternoon is take the fight to them from the second the puck drops and make sure that that wounded mentality of theirs sticks around.
100%. Again, people, 2:00 start time on Friday. I want to see a full 60. I want to see all 4 lines contribute, and whichever goalie starts, I'm going to guess it's Shilovs as we continue this rotation here. Want to see him keep it up too, because outside of shootouts, of course, he's been tremendous to start the season. But as I've said, you don't want to take any team lightly, even though they're at the bottom of the standings. You let UC Saros get hot. He has the ability to stonewall you throughout an entire game. And you don't want to give all of Nashville's top players time and space, because they will make you pay. They still have some really, really good, talented players that, hey, at some point, Barry Trotz may look to trade some of them just because they are at the bottom of the standings. But that will do it for this segment. Coming up to end the show, Evgeni Malkin spoke to Penguins reporters in Sweden on Thursday. And when that happens, it's always big news, because Gino always has a lot to say. Pat and I are going to discuss a little bit of that right after this. But before we get to that, we have to tell you all about our second sponsor, and that is FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com right now to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, we're back here on this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Hunter Hodes, joined by my co-hosts, Pat Damp and Pat. Gino always has a bunch to say when he speaks to the media. It doesn't happen as often as it used to, but I thought today's interview with everyone there was great. And he seems like he's a believer in this team so far. One of the money quotes, and this comes courtesy of Josh Yowie, was, Malkin said, we read articles before the season that said we're not good enough anymore. It's hard. Hey, Gino, if you also listen to the Locked On Penguins podcast, you can just tell us that too. By the way, I'm just messing around a little bit, but he says, last 3 years, we didn't show our best game, but we changed coaches, a couple of new faces. We try our best. Sidney Crosby's playing unbelievable. This is a good group. If we stay healthy, for sure, we can make the playoffs. Hey, again, I love the confidence, man. They're proving everyone wrong so far. We're 2 weeks away from Thanksgiving. I still will say that these next 2 weeks are going to tell us a lot about this team just because they've struggled a little bit lately. The schedule is easing up. If you're still in the playoff spot in the next couple of weeks, Pat and I might be pressing that we're back department. We'd like to file a claim. So they're still third in the Metro, 9-5-3. But you look at the standings in the division right now, Pat. Rangers at 20 points, Flyers at 19, Islanders 18, Cap 17, Blue Jackets 17. Everyone is really just clustered together. Obviously, you have New Jersey and Carolina in the top 2 spots. That's expected. But everyone else, right around 500 to a little bit above 500. But you also look around the league too, Pat. It's where a lot of teams are currently too, outside of some bottom feeders. So it's still going to take a little bit for some separation to happen, but they're still in a good spot. As for that quote, though, again, I love that he's believing in himself. He's believing in this team. They proved everyone wrong so far, so why not just try to keep doing it?
We're exactly 2 weeks to the day.
Yes.
For American Thanksgiving, because I know we've got some Canadian listeners and you guys don't celebrate Thanksgiving the same time we do, but
we got listeners around the world.
Yes,
so.
we do.
Yes.
But that is the traditional first post. That's the first benchmark of the NHL season. You get to US Thanksgiving, and the majority of the teams that find themselves in a playoff spot by American Thanksgiving usually end up making the postseason. And you are right that you look at both conferences, there is a cluster near the wild card in the tops of the division, especially for the Metro. You look at it, the Capitals are and the Blue Jackets are the 2 at the bottom, and they're all of 3 points out of a wild card spot behind the New York Rangers at 20. You go to the West, there's really only 2 teams that find themselves far out, and it's the Penguins' opponent this weekend in Nashville. They're 6 points out, and then Calgary's 10 points out. Those are 2 teams that probably not going to find themselves in the postseason. For the Penguins, I kind of agree with Malkin. The way they have played through this first month and a half, I will say this, and it's going to sound like it's something that can end up on Cold Takes Exposed, but I look at the way this team has played through the first month and a half, and it's not a lot of luck. The process is there. I like the way they're playing. I like the way they're performing. It's a team that they find that consistency and get to American Thanksgiving in striking distance or in the same spot that they are. I look at it as a team that can make the playoffs. And are they going to win a round? I'm very skeptical, but it's not a team that's going to be cannon fodder. They're not going to show up in the first round, get their butts patted, and be out in 5. They'll give a scare to whoever they play, but they got to continue playing this way. They can't just say, hey, look at that. We're 20 games into the season. We did great. Nobody expected us to be this good. Mission accomplished. They got to keep it going. But when you have guys like Evgeni Malkin, who are first ballot Hall of Famers and living legends saying this, it galvanizes the rest of the roster.
100%. And with someone like a Malkin on the roster, with someone like a Crosby, a Letang, a Carlson, they're always going to go for the playoffs every single year. It's what they've known throughout their career. I mean, for God's sakes, 3 of those guys have 3 Stanley Cups. Obviously, we know that Carlson has never won a Stanley Cup, but still, when you have players like that on the roster, no matter the direction that Kyle Dubas has chosen to go, and we all know that he is trying to rebuild this team as quickly as possible and get them back to contention as urgently as possible, the big guns are always going to be like, hey, our goal is to make the playoffs. And so far, they are proving everyone wrong 17 games into the season. It's still only 17 games. We have 60 plus games to go, but it's as good of a start as you could have asked for outside of a little bit of struggles and shootouts and obviously that 3-goal blown lead against Toronto. Malkin himself has been one of the best players in the league to start this season. He looks like 29-year-old Evgeni Malkin compared to someone who is almost 40. So again, when you see Malkin playing at this level, it gets everyone going. When you see Sid playing at the level that he's been playing at lately, it gets everyone going. When you see Erik Karlsson looking like the best version of Karlsson we've seen since he's come here, it gets everyone going. When the goaltenders are making more timely saves this year compared to the last couple of years, that also gets everyone going. And then you add in the new coach that obviously has provided a spark. The new coach bump is something that I don't think gets talked about enough. They're really riding that new coach bump right now. Obviously, it's like, quote unquote, a little bit of the honeymoon phase, but Jamie Hughes has also done a great job overall with the team to date. I've seen Spencer Carberry comparisons out there, and honestly, I don't necessarily disagree with that so far. So when you combine all of that, you get a team that has started really strong.
For sure. And the other part of this that we got to discuss, and that Malkin was not exactly shy about, was that this is the last year of his contract. But that is something that he has said he's not really thinking about. The thing he's thinking about is that he doesn't want to finish playing in the NHL by not making the playoffs 3-4+ years in a row.
Yeah.
And I will say this is my hot take prediction about Evgeni Malkin. If this team does do what he thinks they can and makes the playoffs and even messes around and maybe wins a round, I wouldn't be shocked to see him retire at the end of it. But if they miss, I could see him coming back for a year, because I've said this on the show as well. Everybody ran with these reports that, Kyle Dubas isn't interested in bringing Malkin back. They don't have any interest in extending Evgeni Malkin. That wasn't really what was said.
No.
What was said was they don't have a plan at the time this past off season. The plan was at the Olympic break, Dubas and Malkin are going to sit down together and talk about his future. Again, if he keeps this level of play up and he continues to show that he's maybe found a little bit of the fountain of youth, it wouldn't shock me, even putting aside my most recent prediction of the playoff thing, it wouldn't shock me to have them say, you know what, let's do a 1-year deal for like $5 million and we'll see what happens. And you can continue to mentor some of these young guys and take another shot at making the postseason and maybe going on a run. So I do think that between the expiring deal and missing the playoffs 3 straight years, this is a motivated core that I know everybody wants the rebuild to start. I know everybody wants them to kind of not blow it up, but really hit the reset button. All these guys are showing, at least for now, they still got some game left. So you don't have to pick one or the other. You can continue to stockpile assets and take shots on second chance players and your young prospects and hope that they give your older core a kick in the butt and they maybe get a little bit ahead of schedule.
I think no matter what, there is a distinct chance that Gino comes back next year, whether they make the playoffs or whether they miss. He obviously has shown this year that he has more left in the tank. Why not potentially come back for one more year? As of right now, Crosby has a year left on his contract. I expect that to change at some point, as he'll probably sign a 1-year extension down the line or whatever. But as it stands right now, he has a year left. So why not come back on another 1-year contract? Honestly, Pat, I don't even know if he's going to ask for $5 million. He may ask for less. It honestly wouldn't even matter because the Penguins are going to have a boatload of cap space, but I still don't see him asking for that much on a 1-year contract, to be honest, for someone that's going to be 40 next year. So that's how I see it. We just got to see what happens the rest of the year again. But I think that's going to do it for today's episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. Thank you all so much for taking the time to listen to / watch this one. Pat and I will be back with a fresh episode for you guys right after Friday's game. So if you do the math, it's probably going to end around 4:30, 4:45, right when it ends. Pat and I will be on here breaking down what happened and then getting you guys set for the rematch on Sunday. So again, that will do it for this one. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We appreciate it. Pat and I will be back with a fresh episode on Friday.